Hey, welcome to Grace Speaks, a Grace Church podcast. My name is Chris Carpio, and this is one of our Gracelings segments. Today, our host. Yeah, I almost forgot. I almost skipped an entire step.
You really did.
Yeah, that was
man.
a little awkward. It's okay.
We won't edit this out, you know what? Because I'm human.
Yeah, we all are. It's okay.
Amen.
So, I'm your host, Chris. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Carpio. And
I'm the other one, Katia Gonzalez.
And I am the other one, Alexa Morion.
3 hosts for one show.
Yes.
It's perfect. And we have a special guest today. And our special guest is...
Chloe Schaffer.
Chloe Schaffer.
Woo.
That's
I hope
awesome.
you're clapping in your cars right now.
Yeah, you're like smiling right now, you know, as you're like on your commute or maybe doing the dishes or whatever you do while you listen to this.
I was going to say clean or something.
Yeah, you know, I'd probably just do dishes while I do this. I always need to be doing I need to be like consuming some kind of content while I'm doing the dishes just to distract myself from the amount that I hate doing the dishes.
Oh, right.
Worshiping while doing dishes is where it's at.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a good one.
Yeah,
yeah.
I usually have something playing when I'm cleaning because I hate cleaning my room and organizing.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to, so I'm like, all right, let's put on some music so I can endure this.
I know. I need a soundtrack to my life for real. Okay, so Chloe, we said your name, but a lot of people might not know who you are, which leads us into our first question. Who are you, and how long have you been going to Grace?
So, as we said, I'm Chloe Schaffer. I am the daughter of Elisa and Chip Schaffer. You may know my mom more than my dad because my mom is the lady on keys who likes to bounce up and down all the time.
Yeah, that's
I
literally
love her. Yeah, I love
that's
her.
literally how I was going to describe her. I was like, she's the one that plays the keyboard that's like jamming out.
As she's
yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
That is my mother. I love her very dearly.
They look
And
a lot
then
alike.
If you
Yeah.
go to the men's pancake breakfast, then you would probably know my dad because my dad likes to go to those. But yeah, I've been going to Grace for 5 to 6 years now. We actually started going to Grace. It's a cool story. My mom went to the youth group 30 years ago.
Wow.
Whoa,
So-
history. We should have had her on here
It's
too.
like
We
full
could.
circle.
Yeah.
It is actually really cool.
That's cool.
And so what happened was we were at an old church, and my mom was really stressed out because she was in the leadership and she was in charge of the Christmas Eve service, which was she wanted to go to a church and appreciate a Christmas Eve service without being completely stressed out.
Right.
And so what ended up happening was she heard about Grace Church from a friend, I think it was. And so she went to go check it out because she went, I haven't been there in so long. And it was actually on a retreat with the youth group that she was saved.
Oh,
And so,
that's really cool.
right?
Yeah.
And she's actually 16 years old. Phenomenal story. And so what happened was she went to check it out Christmas Eve, and she took my sister Charlize, because I'm also the oldest of 4 girls.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
It's only 4. It feels way bigger than that.
it normally, because we're everywhere all the time.
Yeah, I
We
feel
tend
like-
to be very involved.
I feel like there's
They
like
are.
20 of you guys.
20 Schaefer's just running around.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so what happened was she went to the Christmas Eve service and absolutely fell in love. I remember Pastor Armin did one of his stories for the Christmas Eve service that we all adore. That's one of my favorite things to look forward to. I actually watched the Easter service from college because I was so excited because my mom told me he was doing one of his stories.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
And so, yeah, it was really good. And so what happened was she checked it out and she just fell in love. And she was like, oh my gosh, I really like this. And so when we ended up leaving that church due to unfortunate circumstances, my mom and my whole family checked it out. And I remember my dad, it was a sermon on how to stand. It was an apologetic sermon that Pastor Armin was doing. And I remember my dad went, it was the beginning of a series. And my dad went, we have to be back for all the series, the entire series. I want to hear the rest of this. This was so good. And then
That's how he gets you.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, this is our new series. Don't miss next week.
Yeah.
That
And
was
we
a
go
pretty
over
good
it.
Armin
Yes.
impression.
It
He
really-
does that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so my dad was like, we have to come back.
Yeah.
And then we checked out some other churches and we're like, nothing compares to Grace. And then we just didn't leave after that when we came back.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That is awesome.
That's a serious statement. Nothing compares to Grace.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We
I think
we
it's
will
fair.
receive that compliment.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
so,
awesome.
we heard about how long you've been here, a little bit about who you are, and even how your parents end up staying at Grace. But why did you stay at Grace? Why do you call Grace Church your home church? And you mentioned you're away in college, but when you come back, it's still your home church. So why'd you stay at Grace?
So Well, there's two main. I like to think that there's two main reasons. One of them is because my parents always emphasize the importance of coming to church. So, like junior, senior year, yes, I had activities, and yes, school played such a huge role in my life and stuff. But there was a point where I would be like, I don't know if I want to go to youth group, or I don't know if I want to go to church. And my parents were like, no, church is a priority. And it's something they always emphasized. And so as I grew up, I was like, church is a priority. That's something that I so strongly believe now. And then and the other thing too is when I miss out on church and I don't go on a Sunday, I can feel it. It's like, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And then when I'm home, I also get a ride, which is one of the nicer parts. But the other thing, too, is I love the community. I love the people that are here. I love being able to walk in and recognize people's faces, even though it may be a big church.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the biggest things I say to my friends my friends at college. I'm like, I go to a big church, but yet you somehow manage to recognize people's faces, and you're still known, even though it's a bigger church. And it's one of my favorite parts about it. And I always feel like I'm growing when I'm here too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think that's a pretty cool observation that like it's such a big church, but you still recognize people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because like you definitely can go into, a big church and just be like a ghost.
Or feel lost even. I've been there in like bigger churches too. But yeah, coming to Grace, I haven't like felt that way at all.
But it's like an interesting phenomenon if you think about it, because like we are a big church, so how do you not feel lost? You know what I mean? Like, how do you still come in and be like, oh, I know you. Oh, I've seen you around. But you do. Like, how does that happen?
I feel like it's almost because like our church building, at least at Necon campus, it's not massive, right? And then before COVID, we had like a bunch of services, and you would come to your service, right? So you would come to like 11:15 or something like that, and then you would see the same people at like 11:15, which I feel like made the bigger church feel smaller,
Right.
Okay.
because it would be like 1/4 the size of like the church basically at that service.
That's a fun question. What is your service?
My service? Oh, my goodness.
Well, they changed now.
It does.
Well, yeah. Okay. Back before COVID.
Before
We'll
COVID?
Before COVID,
Yeah.
and then
So
after.
that was my senior year of high school, and my favorite Sunday had to be when I went to every single service.
You told me about that one.
I wish I did it more often, because what happened was I love Pastor Armin when he preaches, so I went to the 8:15, and then I actually helped teach at the Sunday school at the 9:45, and then I went to the youth group at the 11:15.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And then I always wanted to hear Pastor Sheg preach as well, because it was like hearing the same sermon but from like a completely different side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I feel like with Pastor Armin you kind of got the very logical and very brilliant, very smart. Not that Pastor Sheg isn't smart, but just is very intellectual.
Yeah.
And with Pastor Sheg, I felt like you got the compassionate side of things,
Yeah.
just very, very excited, very into
Yeah.
it. And it's just the same sermon from two different perspectives, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And so,
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think that is
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
Like one comes from like, obviously Armin comes from the heart too.
Yeah.
And obviously Shegs comes from the mind too. But like they both come from a different intensity of that.
Right.
yeah.
Predominantly like from Armin from the mind, predominantly Shegs from the heart.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're both, still have the opposite end of it too.
And they're both so engaging too. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. For somebody who tends to relate to Sheg more often with feeling the more compassionate side, Pastor Armin, I just always am engaged when he talks.
Yeah.
It's true. It's a gift they have for sure.
Oh yeah.
But let me ask you my real question, because that was just more of a fun one.
Yeah.
But my real one is, what is your favorite thing about Grace? You kind of touched on some things, and I know this is probably hard for you to pick one, but I believe in you.
Just one.
Oh, it's so. I feel like I already said it is the hardest part, because I love the community, and I love. One of the other things I love the most is, and I think it's why you can't get lost, is there's so many opportunities to get involved.
Yes.
Like my
Yeah.
mom leads a small group that I went to over the summer when
Yep,
she did
she does.
Psalm 23, and that was right before I went off to college, which I loved so
My
much.
mom is in that small group.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
And then there's also Galentine's. That
yeah.
was so much fun. There's so many different opportunities and so many ways to get involved. And I feel like you have to legitimately try to get lost in the church.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, because there are a lot of opportunities, plug for children's ministry, that you could also get involved in.
Yes.
Right.
I loved, oh my gosh. Quick side note. I loved when I got to teach Club 56. which changed to grades 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But what happened
Club
was
45.
Club 45. Is that what it's?
not what
Okay.
I was
I was like, is that the name? Oh, okay.
wow. You just sound like it's like a club for 45-year-olds.
It does.
Club 56 sounded like a club for 56-year-olds, so
I don't
it's
know.
all
It
right.
had a different vibe.
It does.
It has a
Actually, when
different vibe.
I don't know. It kind of does.
Maybe it's just because we grew up here.
Maybe. And you think like,
Yeah.
oh, Club 56.
I
is
did not
56.
grow up here.
So what vibe does it give you then?
It gives me like empty nesters, like get together.
Funny.
Let's have brunch because our kids
No
left our
way.
nest to college.
I
It's
used-
okay, you're not alone.
I literally grew up being like, man, I can't wait to be in Club 56 because like
Wow.
the bar techs were like, they were like
yeah.
in charge of it at the time, and they had like this big end of the year party at their like house.
So wait,
And
what is it?
It's for 5th and 6th graders.
Oh, okay.
It's like youth. Like it's almost like an intro.
Pre-youth.
Yeah, it's pre-youth.
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cute.
yeah, it's like a baby step into
Yeah,
it.
it's like
Yeah.
so that way when they get to youth, they're not like, oh my gosh.
You're
They're
right.
like, oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
kind of.
But they had
Right.
like this big net that you could climb in the backyard and like this
They did.
huge
They had
field that
cool
they had
stuff.
games on.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, it was the coolest thing for me, and I never got to go. Yeah, I
got-
don't remember
oh,
what
wow.
happened, but I like my year where it was like the celebration, like they didn't do it that year or something like that.
They were like, oh, Chris is coming.
Heartbreaker. I know.
How about this for youth group? You put together something for middle and high school that has like the
Ooh.
same
Sky
kind
Zone.
of vibe.
Oh,
Yeah, same
It
vibe.
wouldn't be
Sky Zone.
Sky Zone. No, it'd have to be like a homey vibe thing.
All
just
right,
like
do
the
it in your
Vortex.
backyard.
Oh well, yeah.
He's like, I'm
like,
not doing it.
My
like, no,
backyard,
never mind.
my backyard is not as exciting as the Bartek's backyard.
They had
They-
the Bartex had a
Really?
legit.
You have to see their yard.
yeah.
Like
Man.
it's so
They had a
fun.
fire pit. It's closer to like how your yard is actually.
Oh, yeah?
probably. Like
Yeah.
it's like it was huge, but they
Okay.
had like this obstacle course.
Oh, wow.
That's
too
what
on
I'm
it.
saying.
okay.
Like
It was
you know, my
legit.
backyard, like I have
That's
a
cool.
shed back there. Like, it's the
We have a
extent, like,
stream in our backyard.
groundhogs. Hey, check that out. That's even cooler. That's
My
like
parents have
Bridge
talked
to
about
Terabithia kind of
offering to have the youth group over. We actually, my family has talked about having the youth group over and doing stuff like that. It's just hard because we don't live near the church.
I know. Yeah.
So it's
you're
like-
a far drive.
It would be
Yeah.
fun for like a one-time event.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Manhunt? We've
Yeah.
got good property for Manhunt.
Actually, yeah,
Ooh,
that would
yeah.
be
That's a
good game.
Yeah.
That's fun stuff. Okay, back on
Back
track.
to it.
Yeah,
Favorite
back on
thing
track.
about Grace.
Favorite thing about Grace.
Yes.
Not the Bartex backyard.
I'd have to say the community and the ability to get involved and how much you grow when you get involved too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like
That's
I
true.
cannot emphasize enough how much I have grown while I've been at Grace.
Yeah.
Just as a person in my faith, just all around.
I think that's definitely kind of like been a little bit of a common theme too. It's like you get out what you put in.
True.
You
Yes.
know? And like
Yeah.
if you put in, then like you're really gonna have like an awesome experience.
Right.
Um,
Oh,
You
yeah.
said that when you did the Gracelings interview with Chris and I, you were just like, or no, Chris and me, sorry, grammar. And you said that
Something
like you
similar,
yeah,
yeah.
something to that too, that you're like, oh, well, it seems like you get what you put in. And
Right.
it's like, yeah, that's exactly,
Yeah.
it's very true.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because like I mean, Chloe didn't grow up like all her life going to Grace like
True.
Alexa and I did, but she still had, I think, probably an equally awesome experience
Oh, yeah.
that we did.
I would say so.
Having like getting to know the staff and like getting to know her like youth pastor like Ruben at the time and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like having those like close relationships because she put in the investment into those
Right.
relationships.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is like super cool. Okay, so how about this? Ready for this question?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna toss it up. All right, you ready? Here we go. Are you ready?
I don't know if she's
Yes.
ready.
Okay. I don't know if she's ready. You ready, guys? Okay.
I'm ready.
He's like, just do it.
Katie's like, is it different than the questions we prepared? What is your favorite Grace-related memory?
It's so hard. I'd have to say there's got to be two. It's so hard because there's so much I have made. It was interesting when I was leaving for college. I cried the most on my last Sunday service, standing outside the NetCon campus, going, "This is the home I feel like I'm leaving."
Oh,
Like genuinely, which was weird because like
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, right?
that it was so difficult for me, and so my favorite memory. I have two actually that I wrote down that I was thinking about, and it has to be either the Priscilla Shire simulcast. Because I remember it was the first time I felt like I was really at an event at Grace. And my mom was like, hey, you want to come? And I was like, sure, I've got nothing else going on. I remember I went, and Priscilla Shire is a phenomenal women's ministry speaker.
She
And
is.
every time I hear her talk, I'm like, I want to be like her. That is so cool. The way that she impacts people and she teaches. And I was just like, I was crying. Oh my gosh, I was crying so hard when she was praying, and just the community and sitting at a table with women. That's actually when I first met Pastor Armin's wife.
Oh, Nancy?
Nancy.
I didn't know,
She's
but
cool.
I didn't know that she was Pastor Armin's wife at first. So that kind of threw me in for a spin at the end. And I was like, oh my goodness, because she doesn't act like it, because she's such a wonderful woman and very, very modest and humble. But
Okay, yeah.
but yeah, but then it was either that one or it has to be on the mission trip, which is interesting because I've been on 3 different mission trips. I went to Alaska, Massachusetts, and I also went to Puerto Rico. But it was the Massachusetts one that really changed me, I have to say, because it was on that mission trip that I felt like God legitimately told me my purpose for life.
Wow.
Because
awesome.
because what happened was I have not the easiest testimony, as I know Alexa and Chris knows as well.
Yeah.
And my story's pretty difficult, I'd say. And what happened was it was that moment where I felt God tell me, you're going to share your story with other people. And when you share your story, you're going to change lives for me. And because he gives purpose to the pain that we go through. And I would not be who I am today if I didn't go through what I went through. And so
Right.
it was the first moment that I realized that while I was crying in the prayer corner in the sanctuary at a church I was not familiar with. And it was interesting because I didn't really talk about it until Pastor Sheg preached a sermon that was legitimately on that exact thing. And I walked up to him afterwards and I shared with him what I had experienced. And my mom was standing there and I hadn't even told her yet.
Yeah.
And she was like,
Ooh.
Chloe, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, I honestly kind of forgot. But it was funny because after that sermon, I just never forgot. And I just kept sharing. And that actually led to me sharing my testimony in
Yeah.
the youth group. That's how
I
it
remember
started.
that day. Yeah.
And
I
so-
live streamed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have to go and watch that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think,
think
it's,
it's on-
still
It was up, but I think we
No,
pulled
yeah, I
it
think
down.
I think it's not there anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
yeah.
Alright.
Anyways,
It was
moving
Instagram
on.
Live, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's why.
Yeah,
Okay. Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
Oh,
cool.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's 2 good memories, you know. And also, just because a mission trip's going to some crazy fancy location like Alaska or Puerto Rico doesn't mean it's going to be the one to change you.
Not
Right.
at all.
Sometimes it's just Massachusetts, you know,
Right.
or Randolph campus. So,
Hint, hint.
hint, hint. Come
This
to
summer.
the mission trip this summer at the Randolph campus. Yeah. So, hey, you're the pitcher this time.
Oh, I
Katia.
am. I have the ball now.
You
I'm
have
going
the
to
ball.
toss it to you, Chloe. So, over the years, how have you seen Grace Church change
Or grow.
or grow? Yeah.
I'd have to definitely say grow more than change. One of the biggest changes I think that I've seen that I didn't think about beforehand was the fact that like we're sitting at Randolph campus because I grew
Yeah.
up at
Yeah.
the NetCon campus, and it's funny because like I always knew Grace Church as there, and then once the Randolph campus opened, it was like home part 2.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
it,
that's awesome.
and I didn't
Yeah.
have that personal connection to it because I didn't have the memories.
Yeah.
But I love the way that it expanded and it grew. And I have friends who go like if you're from Shanna.
I do.
And I felt like I got connected with her more because she goes here. And it's interesting because that has to be the biggest change, I would say, and also growth because the church has grown since coming here. And I'd say the other, I don't know. As a kid, I feel like you kind of miss it. As I'm growing up and as I'm getting older now, I think I see more change and I see more growth as like the change of youth pastors. And because don't get me wrong, I miss Ruben, but my sisters talk about how good of a job that you're doing, Chris.
Wow.
And like
thanks.
my sisters love him. Oh my goodness. Like I am not kidding. But yeah,
Glory to God.
absolutely.
Actually, that's kind of cool how you worded that. Like Randolph is like Grace, like home part 2. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's actually how I felt when we acquired Grace. Because like, again, I grew up at the NetCon campus like my whole life, and then when we got Randolph, I didn't feel like, oh, this is weird. I was like, all right, more home to love.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how I felt. So I was like, I get
Yeah.
that.
And I love the fact we had the field to do the outdoor services.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I loved the outdoor services.
Yeah.
Being
That's
able to
definitely-
do worship
Yeah.
nights, not lights.
Oh yeah.
But there was lights. Out on the field has been really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely is a cool testimony to see like how God was providing for us in a way that we didn't anticipate a need for, you
Yep.
know? Because it was like we didn't think we were going to need a field to do services in, you know,
Wow,
before
yeah.
COVID.
That's so true.
But then we acquired, you know, Bethlehem, and then we had a field to be able to do that. And like, we merged, and that's just like really cool, you know, to the fact that like God provided that for both campuses, you know, because we both need each other. So, yeah, that's
All
cool.
right. My turn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So you're in college now,
Yes.
but you started as a wee teen here. So how has it been going from your teenage years into your early adult years here at Grace? How has your growth been for you during that time?
Oh my goodness. That's gonna be a hard one to answer, honestly.
I feel like you're still like in it almost. Right?
It is.
And
I'm
like you're processing.
exactly.
It's a lot. Yeah.
One of the biggest changes has to be like the fact that I started going to my mom's small group and I started getting to know some of the adults because I was so involved in the youth group and I was so involved with all like the kids and stuff that once I kind of got to that age where, oh, I'm going to a women's small group, not anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to there instead of going to like the youth group every Wednesday. That's got to be one of the biggest changes, which I am very blessed that my mom taught it, which made it 10 times easier.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it's like, you also have 1825, which I went to over the summer before college. And that was very impactful as well because you get to know kids your own age and kids, and not, well, they're not kids, they're adults. I keep saying kids because I still feel like a kid.
We're
It's
kids.
that
Yeah.
transition. I feel like I'm aging out of kid and it's
Forever young.
kind of awkward.
I
It's a
wanna
very
be
awkward transition.
Forever.
But,
Forever.
but yeah. And so I really liked 1825. I also had my good friend Nina, who she was the
pretty
one.
cool.
It was funny. I remember we were both texting each other the first time we were going. I'm like, "You're gonna be there, right?" She was like, "Yeah, you're definitely going, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we
then-
both showed up at the same time and walked in together because I was so nervous.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah,
what
you
you gotta
need
do.
that. Yeah, you need that buddy sometimes, especially
yeah.
when something's new.
Yeah.
You know, your first time going into something. You know,
Buddy
just-
system.
Terrified to go to the youth group for the first time. Fun fact.
Yeah, it wasn't there like a sandwich story? Didn't you have like a sandwich story, becoming friends with somebody over a sandwich?
No, that was like Lilo and Stitch.
Oh,
Honestly,
No.
when you said that, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was
Mine was
like
ping
Chloe
pong.
becoming
Oh, it was
friends.
ping pong?
Oh, was it ping pong?
Because I remember
Oh.
it was Autumn and Lisa.
oh,
If you recognize those names.
yeah, yeah,
And actually, Ruben thought I was a year younger for the longest time.
really.
And then I think it was a freshman or sophomore, and he goes, "Wait, I just lost you for a year?" And I'm like, "Sorry, can't change my age. If I could, I would." But what happened was they were playing ping pong, and they're like, "You want to join?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay," but it was not ping pong. It was kill the other person with the ping pong ball.
Wow.
And it would just
That's
smack
not
it
how you
back
play
forth.
ping pong.
Yeah, that's how
I
we.
learned
That's how
something
we
today.
teach it in youth group.
I was like, I learned something today.
It was like murder ball more than anything
they
else.
Love
But it
that
was
ping pong.
so much fun. And that was how I really first got connected. But I was terrified, which is
yeah.
interesting because I tend to be very, very extroverted,
Yeah.
if you know me.
Yes.
And so the fact that I was nervous shocks a lot of people. But it was like I took one step in, I started talking to people, and instantly I was like, okay, I'm okay now.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's, you know, even extroverted people sometimes can be
Yeah.
nervous around.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
Anxious.
kind of like
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
gotta
scenarios.
acclimate. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the goldfish in the bag, and then you put it in the water, so it gets used to the water temperature, and then it's good. It's like
Right.
that.
Yeah, I never knew that was a thing.
You didn't?
I had
No.
no idea.
Chris was like, "Why are all my pet
Why do I-
fishes
Oh, my
dying?"
fish died.
I didn't. This explains so much.
Could have saved so much trauma from my childhood. Anyways, I have a question for you. That's this one's off the cuff here.
Ooh,
Oh no.
All right,
Oh,
you ready?
boy.
shaking things up.
Yeah, I feel like you've had enough time to kind of like loosen
Yeah.
up and stuff.
Chaos.
Okay. So, how do you feel like your grace has helped to prepare your faith for college season of life?
It's a good question.
All right, I'll allow. That was a good question.
Thanks.
I'd have to say it's hard because like I go to a Christian college.
Yeah.
So that's been very helpful in that sense. But at the same time, I don't go to Christian college, this is what you believe. I go to, you're going to question why you believe what you believe so that you are deep in, so that you know why you're believing it.
Yeah.
And so it was very handy that in the youth group, Pastor Ruben was so into apologetics.
Yeah.
Because for me, that was something I used even in high school. And it's interesting because I'll sit in a college classroom and trying my best not to get any sort of political, but I could have teachers as far left and as far right, and I know where I'm at, and I know why I believe what I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm firm in my faith.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And at the same time, I'm also not like closed-minded that, oh, I could be wrong. Because that's the other thing too, was I've also learned how to come at a point of humility and saying, okay, I'm not perfect. My ideology is not perfect, and so I could be wrong. But I feel like my faith was definitely encouraged to be strong. Like that's something the youth group emphasizes a ton is be strong in your faith. Do not be afraid to share your faith.
Yeah.
And I went actually from a public school to a private Christian college, which was a really big change for me.
That's probably a shock.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
There's a lot of culture differences
Yeah.
between
Yes.
going to public school and a Christian school. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so true.
What
Yeah.
college do you go to?
I go to Roberts Wesleyan College.
Okay.
It is a very tiny Christian college right outside of Rochester.
Okay.
I went
So,
to
upstate.
Rochester,
Right.
so I know exactly where it is. I'm like,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool. I mean, like, I think even when you go to a Christian college, there's just like, different, because you could say, oh, like I go to a secular school, and so there's like just temptation like around every corner, but like my faith has helped me to like resist that temptation. And then maybe some people think, oh, you go to a Christian school, like you don't have to deal with that kind of thing. But it's like not the case.
No.
Right.
I had a mentor my first year in college, and he would say, if you want something bad enough, you're going to find a way.
Oh, yeah.
And like we had all these rules in place, like, third party rules. So you could like, you have to be with a third person, like at all times, like no matter like if you're at any non-major point of the campus, right? So like if you went to the ranch, was at the far end of the like school, you had to have like a third party with you. Like you couldn't leave the campus without like signing a piece of paper saying who you were going with, like all this stuff.
Really?
Yeah, really strict. Word of life, strict school. But it was actually not as strict as it was a couple of years prior to that. But people would break rules all the time,
Right.
yeah.
And like if your faith wasn't something that you had like conviction behind, like a strong resolve
yeah.
for, then you would end up, falling to all these other, and struggles.
Definitely seen that at my college, and it's very interesting to watch like the different friend groups because I may go to a Christian college, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the entirety of my school is Christian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's one of the biggest like shockers for me because whoops.
You're okay.
So what happened was like I'd get to know people and I'd talk to people, and then you would start talking about different denominations, and then you have people be like, "Oh, I'm not Christian," and it took me aback at first because I was like, "I'm at a Christian college. Why else would you go to a
Right.
Christian
Right.
college?"
Yeah.
But they do offer pretty nice scholarships. It could be another reason
Yeah.
why.
I was gonna say, how are the programs? 'Cause
Exactly. Nursing program
Yeah, I was
is which
gonna
is
say.
why I am in it. Has a phenomenal nursing program, a phenomenal music program,
Yeah.
and also good sports. And
Yeah.
so that was one of the other things I noticed too was the sports kids seem very separated from like different groups
Yeah.
of kids. And
That's
it was
true.
weird getting connected with some sports kids but not with others. Like my good friends were like track and swim.
Yeah.
But like I didn't really meet too many of like, well, yeah, I'm trying to think like basketball or volleyball didn't end up happening, which a lot of my friends were sad about because I did know a couple of volleyball players. Actually, Adriana goes there and she plays
Oh,
volleyball
really?
there. Yeah.
Whoa. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Also, shout out. We do volleyball every Thursday at 7:30 at the Randolph campus in the gym. So be there.
Come on out.
But yeah, it was a really big shocker that, oh, not everybody's crazy into their faith like I am. Like, I tend to, like, I'm all in as far as Christianity. There's actually a really good song by Matthew West called All In, one of my favorite songs. And as for me and my faith, I tend to be all in, like, I'm an all-the-time Christian, not just church on Sunday, go party on Monday. Like, I
That's
tend
also called a normal Christian.
Yes. Should be.
That's
It
what
should
Christians
be.
are supposed to be.
Right.
But you don't see that all the time, especially
No,
at
yeah.
college where you don't have your parents to be like, oh, you're going to church.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because I found a friend group that would love to church hop.
Yeah.
And then I actually go to 2 different churches up in Rochester. I go to a Salvation Army church, which my parents were part of the Salvation Army when I was really little. So that's like, as Chris put it the other day, going back to my roots. And then I also go to, which is a very small church, and I like going there because I can serve, because a majority of the congregation is actually homeless. And so I absolutely love getting involved and being able to help out. But for as far as like sermons go, there's actually a church right next door on the other side of the street called, fun fact, Grace Road Church.
Oh.
And
Never leave Grace.
Grace in the name. Always grace in the name.
oh yeah. God fills my life with tons of grace.
Amen.
nice.
Amen. Preach.
And so I actually go there because I love their sermons because they're so strong. And it's interesting because it's like, I feel like I had to go to 2 different churches to find what I just have at home, which is Grace Church on the Mount. Because Grace Church on the Mount has that community and it has the amazing sermons. And while I was at college, I had to find 2 different churches to do that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's awesome that you found your church while in college, though, because that's like a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, when I was in school, I'm going to school for like a Bible. I was, and I had like a really hard time like finding a church to commit to, and at the same time like feeling like I was committing because it was like, okay, I'm gonna be here for, because I transferred to like Karen in my second year and stuff like that, because Word of Life's only like a 1-year school, but so I was only gonna be there for like 2.5 years. So I was like, oh man, like, am I really gonna be able to like invest and like make an impact, like, in any of these communities? And all these like kind of questions like go through, because you're like, well, in the summer I go back to my home church anyways, and then in the breaks I'm at my home church, and so I'm only here for a couple weeks. And it can make it hard. Basically, all this thinking can make it hard for you to like find a church and like plant yourself in. So I think it's really cool that you've already found a church and like you're already like, like putting your hands to work and stuff like that, and investing, and I just think it's cool. It's really encouraging.
It was an opportunity. It was one of the things that I actually decided, I think it was like my freshman or sophomore year of high school, because it was actually during the sermon where I don't even remember who was preaching. All I remember is that I wrote down in the notes on my phone, make sure to find a church at college. And it was something that I knew I needed for myself. And then once I did get to college, in the beginning, everybody's chirp-chopping. They're so exciting. They're so excited. And I was looking around at different churches, and it was hard because there's so many different churches in the area, and committing was very difficult.
Yeah.
And then I remember I heard the music to the Salvation Army Church, and I was like, oh, I want to go.
Yeah.
And then I actually didn't have a car either, so I had to find somebody to drive me, which was driving me crazy.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so it was like, so I had different friends who could drive, and it was actually cool because I would encourage people to go to church, because I'm like, I don't have a way to get to church. Can you drive me? And they're like, oh, I've been meaning to do that. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was like almost like an encouragement for others because I really wanted to go.
Like,
But yeah.
oh, I actually have to do this now.
Yes. Church.
Good. Good. Awesome. Okay, so here's another question that I have for you that's kind of off the cuff too.
Wow, two
Off the cuff questions, but it's up because I know Chloe, and like I know that there's things on her heart that she's passionate about. I want other people to hear them,
Okay.
So like, what is it that you feel? Because you kind of alluded to this earlier, but like, what is it you feel called to do?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. I know.
So as far as
Tone it down there.
as far as the Massachusetts, what happened in Massachusetts, or just as far as my life, because it has changed over time, especially being in college.
Okay, I'm gonna say the direction that you're heading now.
Heading now, ooh, that's different. So I actually want to be a missionary nurse.
Awesome.
What happened was, I think it was my junior or senior year of high school, we got a letter in the mail from an organization called Mercy Ships.
Yes.
And it's this nonprofit organization, and there are these floating hospital ships that go along the coast of Africa, because 50% of the population lives within a 100-mile radius of the coast. Fun fact.
Right.
Memorized that from one of their intro videos, and because I loved it so much. And I remember watching the video in the car with my mom, and I just started crying. And I was like, Mom, I have to do this. I can't explain it, but like my heart felt so full. And I'm like, Mom, I can't explain to you how badly I feel called to do this.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just crying. I tend to cry a lot.
Yeah.
Because crying shows a lot of emotions, I'm just saying.
Hey, Katia cries a lot too.
I do, Chris. Thanks for sharing that.
And so what happened was I felt that placed on my heart, and I was like, I really want to do this. And so my senior year, I was going through a bunch of Bible Project videos, which I love the Bible Project. Tim Mackey is a phenomenal speaker, and he has lectures that are like 2-3 hours long that you can watch on YouTube.
Yeah. Which he says that with a lot of excitement.
Like, I watch them.
Do you know that you can also take seminary level courses by him for free?
Yeah, like through the Bible Project.
Yeah, it's called Classroom. So if you go to thebibleproject.com and then go to Classroom, he teaches seminary level courses.
I won't forget. Don't worry.
Okay. And he has it set up like if I were to have done online courses at Karen and their like software and everything, it would have been like so clunky in comparison to like what they have.
Right.
Like
Really?
it's
I have
so,
a friend that's doing it.
Yeah, it's so like well put together. It looks really nice. Yeah.
And he's also a youth pastor and he loves it.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Tim's cool. Tim's a cool guy. You know, him and I, we go back. Not really. But,
besties.
Very intellectual.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I was watching one of their videos, and they were doing their series on the ancient Hebrew words. And I remember there's this word called nephesh, which if you know me, you know I love the word nephesh.
Yeah.
Because nephesh means, it's used throughout the Old Testament. It's actually used in Psalms. Can't remember exactly where, but it says, as a deer pants for the water, so my nephesh cries out for you. And it's saying my soul, but it also means your flesh. And for me in life, I want to heal nephesh. Because
91? I was like, I think it's Psalm 91, 92.
I always go.
It's in the 90s.
I love YouVersion.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I love going to YouVersion because you can just search it.
Oh, that's true.
And it just pops up.
Yeah.
And so the word used there, I actually have, I love this. I have the Bible in its original ancient Hebrew for the Old Testament in the original Greek in the New Testament.
Psalm 42.
Psalm 42.
I had one number right, the 2.
It's okay.
I was like, I'm gonna say a number, but my dyslexia is gonna kick in. I'm gonna say it backwards.
And so I love the word nephesh because I want to heal it, because growing up, I always connected with people and I always felt like I was able to help them spiritually. But then when something would happen medically, I felt like I was so helpless. And I'm like, I want to do both sides of the equation.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why I say missionary nurse, because it's compassionate nurse care. It's going beyond just patch you up and send you on your way.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my purpose in life is I want to heal nephesh, because this is what I feel called to do. And this is way out in the future, but it's something that was placed in my heart senior year. I want to create what I call nephesh hospitals. And they're these legitimate church hospitals where people who normally can't afford health care and people who are struggling can go to these hospitals and get that care. But at the same time, it's not just normal care where it patch you up, send you on your way. Because in my own story, I've been in and out of hospitals, and that's how it feels like sometimes.
Right.
And it's that care where, oh no, we're also going to look at your mental state. How are you doing mentally? Because mental health is such a big thing that people tend to miss.
Yeah.
And when you're struggling physically, it tends to help affect your mental health. And I've also noticed how mental health can also affect your physical health as well.
That's very true.
Yeah. Totally.
And they go hand in hand. And so that for me shows the importance of nephesh as a whole. And my passion, I guess, what I want to do in the future and my calling is to heal nephesh together and holistically.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's totally in line with, the work of like Jesus. You know, he would come, he would heal people physically and spiritually.
Right. Like past.
And then all at the same time, he's also healing them mentally. Because he's
Mark chapter 5, if you look at the story of I was really into that story my second semester, and it's the story of the bleeding woman and how she suffered for 12 years and she went to doctors, and all that happened was it got worse.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when she touched Jesus's robes, he felt the power like come out of him. And that's something that like I never noticed until I actually sat down and I read it.
Yeah.
And he says to her, my daughter, you have been, because of your faith, you have been healed.
Yeah.
And that's something for me that like I struggle with a lot of health things, which is one of the reasons why I understand it all too well. And so in that story, you're watching this woman break down, and she told him, and it says that she told him the entire truth. And you can watch this woman who has struggled so much, and you see her not only healing physically, but also mentally and spiritually as well.
Yeah.
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 No, that's really
Mark chapter 5.
That's good.
I believe.
It's a good read.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. And that's also why I wanted to ask you the question.
No, it was a good question.
Because I was like...
Because we get that kind of answer, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So this is our last question for you. And this one is about...
His original question.
Yeah, this is what I was supposed to ask you. So it's, what do you think God has in store for the Grace community?
The first word that comes to my head is growth. Because, and whether that be growth as far as within the leadership, whether that be growth as far as in attendance, hopefully, as COVID restrictions are lightening up and as people feel more comfortable to leave their houses. But even like personally for each person, like I said, I'm the oldest of 4 girls, and my little sisters, I watch them grow so much. And my sister is on the youth worship team now.
Yeah.
And she loves it, and I'm watching her grow in that and watching her approach that and trying to approach that with humility as well.
Yeah.
Because she is very talented. And when you see someone that's talented, you want to compliment them. And I'm watching her grow and be like, okay, but it's all for God.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I see happening in store for the community is just growth.
Yeah.
Because it tends to be the history, but I also see it also being the future.
That's a good answer.
That's a good last statement.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Tends
I
to be
see it in the history.
But it also something in the future. I don't remember.
See it in its future.
See it in its future.
Which honestly, like, I was like, wow, get that on a shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that'd
was
be a
like,
cool
it's
Grace
Grace
shirt.
Church bumper stickers.
It's in the history.
growing,
and
yeah.
it's also in the future.
Right.
Yes.
Growth.
And I was
Growth.
like, whoa.
Hey, we have to continually grow.
Yeah.
But I like how you have it as pretty broad. You were like growth not only as a church, like, but also as an individual coming to Grace. Like you, you said, your sisters are growing in ways that you are excited to see. So it's cool that you know it's not just Grace specific. It's you, the listener specific. It's your chance to grow too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like a cool thing that's what you see as part of like our past and our future.
Yeah.
I didn't say it as cool as her, but you all get it.
Yeah.
The past is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is a gift. That is why it is called present. Kung Fu Panda.
Yep. I was like, wait,
Nice.
wait, I know that one.
Good movie reference.
Good movie reference.
yeah.
We love movie references.
Also a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Childhood
a good-
movie.
Yeah.
Jack Black, right? He was
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
He
He
was
was
also-
Poe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, Nacho Libre, another great movie.
School of Rock.
Cool.
Yes.
Rock.
Yeah, man. I feel like all the Nacho Libre quotes that I could say just like aren't right for the podcast. They're like not bad, but they're just weird.
Like
They are
stretchy pads.
Sometimes, like when you're a man, you just have to wear stretchy pants.
I love that movie. It's so funny.
Well, Chloe, thanks for
Yeah.
coming on this podcast and just blessing us with your testimony and your experience here at Grace. It was super encouraging.
It
and
was.
Yeah.
you know, everybody who's listening, I just encourage you to lift Chloe up in prayer
Yes.
as she just continues her college journey.
Yeah.
You know, this season of life is one that's very transformative. You're learning a lot about who you are. You're learning about what you believe and why you believe it. And what direction you're going in next. And all of that stuff can be really scary. But we believe that, you know, Chloe has the empowerment of the Holy Spirit within her that will help to direct her and guide her. And she also has a great family backing her up, not only her immediate family, but also her church family.
Thank you so much
yeah.
for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will see you. And this is where I'm just going to hand it off to you now.
I'll take it over. So you can catch our next podcasts. So we usually air them the second and fourth Friday of the month. Wow, I almost forgot what date.
You know, you do this thing where like your voice actually cuts out. Like you somehow like it sounds like someone clipped it.
No,
It
I
doesn't
think she
even-
was like trying to think of a
I
day.
know,
Oh,
but
okay.
like
But I've done this many a time.
I've
Like when
seen-
we used to do the intros and outros
Yeah.
for the videos for the sermons.
Oh,
like
okay.
when I would mess up or like when I was thinking,
You
You
know,
like
I would
your
literally
voice
just
box
stop,
like
yeah.
stops.
yeah, it just
You're
stops. Like people like fade out or something like that. Hers just stops. I'm like, how do you do that? All right,
she like
anyways.
puts
Skill.
mutes herself like
yeah, I just like
finish
mute,
it off. Finish
unmute.
it off.
What was I? Oh, so we air on the second and fourth Friday of the month, and you can catch us on the app or the website or on Spotify.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.